Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Room for Everybody. Today we have Kaly here to share some of her expertise, and I'm very excited for this conversation. So, Kaly, I'll pass it over to you. Could you just share some of the identities that you hold?
Of course, I love this question because there are so many. And I think ones that I really want to share today that I'm an accessibility startup founder. So I founded Capella Design a couple of years ago, and we essentially redesign the ugly home mobility products that you see in a home mobility store into beautiful and functional furniture. So I'm an industrial designer by trade. I'm really passionate about universal design and inclusive design. I would say I'm a disability and pro-aging ally. And on a personal note, I'm the granddaughter of someone who could have greatly benefited from what I'm doing now, and the daughter of some folks that hopefully will benefit. So there's a real personal tie for me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I came across your business on Instagram and was like, I love what you're doing. I have to talk to you more about this. So, really excited that you're here today with
Thank
us.
you.
Yeah. Could you talk a little bit more about the products that you're designing and like how you've created more of this aesthetic and why that's important?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of reasons why aesthetics are important, especially when we talk, about maybe places where products haven't been designed aesthetically, essentially. And what we see in mobility is that we've essentially ignored aesthetics completely, and partially because of this medical model that we talk about, where in the past, the ways that design has happened for accessibility has been really focused on something being medically wrong, as opposed to social structures that keep people from experiencing their spaces based on their needs, right? So we know, and I mean, as an interior designer, that like how we feel in our spaces is really important.
Mhm.
So if we're filling our spaces with ugly and like barely usable shower seats, grab bars, any sort of those sorts of products, it affects our health. So there's this real opportunity to reimagine how we might, be empowered at home
Mhm.
with our furniture that actually incorporates what it looks like. So I started a couple years ago with a shower seat, and that's kind of how Capella started, was just taking like one product and saying, hey, why hasn't anyone made a functional and nice looking shower seat, which led me down the rabbit hole that is starting an entire business surrounding it, but B, what can actually be done?
Right.
So kind of, looking into what functional features we could incorporate into a nicer version and what it means to have a nicer version of these, cheap plastic shower seats that we see at the mobility store.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I think it makes me think of kind of the societal shift that's happening around disability and what you were saying about how like we started with the medical models that are they're like functional but do not look good, and when you have them in your home it just feels, oh, I have this medical need and like I'm lacking. But if it's something that's designed well and makes you happy when you see it, like it's just such a different interaction with that piece of furniture or that mobility aid that you have in your home. So I think it's so important to do that and to kind of shift the way that we're designing different supports in the physical space.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think it's also a huge opportunity for us to start fighting stigma through questioning, why more of these objects aren't kind of commonplace in your home. Like a shower chair is useful for everyone. And so if
Yeah.
we're saying like this is now an object that we want to have in our home versus something that we have to have because an injury happened or we got older and our lives changed, then we can have a really different conversation about empowerment, essentially.
Yeah, definitely. It's very exciting. Beyond the shower chair, what other products have you been working on?
Yeah, so last year I designed a side table essentially to replace the hospital looking tray tables that go over your bed or your couch while you're, using them for various reasons, eating being the hospital reason. But there's, using tray tables get used for things, I don't know, working on your laptop, FaceTiming, playing cards. And so I wanted to create something that had that utility and also looked like a modern piece of furniture. And it's actually won some awards now, which is like really exciting.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been purchased in a permanent collection of the museum here, which is
Oh,
super cool. So,
cool.
accessible design has gone from this ugly, terrible tray table that you need
Mhm.
to something that would be like bought by a museum is like, that's the dream. That's the dream for me. But yeah, I'm also working on some new projects. I'm working on a mug and also a railing right now that I'm really like so
Ooh,
excited about. It integrates into a picture frame. So it
wow.
doesn't look like a
Okay.
grab bar. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. I love that.
Thanks.
Yeah. If you could imagine like just the most accessible world and the most accessible room, like what are some of the key elements that you think collectively we need to tackle? Like maybe not just you personally in Capella Design, but like who else needs to be involved in this?
Yeah. So I think, there's a great saying in the accessibility world, and it's nothing about us without us,
Hmm.
right? It's that people who are experiencing disability should be at the forefront of making these changes. And I think that's kind of one of the greatest things that I get to do is work with people who have a deep understanding of these needs. I have personal experience through people I love, my family, but not the kind of lived experience that someone with a disability would have. So we work really closely with people who actually use our products. And then there are other people that are involved in helping them choose. So occupational therapists, especially, in order to create solutions that are like specifically what people are looking for and missing in their lives at the moment. So, when we talk about the most accessible room, I immediately think, well, I'm kind of like, I'm almost the tool to help you do that, if that makes sense,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So I have lots of ideas that other people have shared with me, and that's where I get to make the magic and turn them into a reality, which
Mhm.
is, kind of that's my dream.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's really well said. So, for people who might not be familiar, could you give us kind of a quick overview of what goes into developing one of your products?
Yeah, of course. So I can talk, maybe it's just interesting to talk specifically about the shower seat because that was a product that had quite the development cycle. But essentially it's a lot of back and forth in terms of figuring out, what are the needs of the folks who might be using it, what are like not only like so the aesthetic needs, the functional needs, other needs that maybe I haven't thought about. So we do a ton of research to make sure that we've distilled down to the most important factors and then start creating. I'm a pretty hands-on product designer, so I like to make things myself. So, there's this like collection of shower stool prototypes that I have, but essentially back and forth releasing something, trying it out with people who would use the product, going back again, and then redesigning. And then, so that's kind of like the design. And then there's also a fabrication where, I'm working with as local as I can manufacturers in order to make sure that we can make everything as sustainably, ethically, and cost effectively as possible. So it's like, it's a dance, really. Yeah,
Right.
I guess is the term you would use,
Yeah.
but it's a whole lot of fun. It's like, it's a joy for me, for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, that's really cool. I feel like you can go to stores and just see the products, but it's really interesting to hear kind of the backstory of it.
Yeah. And, we have a fast furniture industry, of course, that obscures that back end for reasons that are, they're buying things for way too cheap from people that, aren't getting paid enough to make them and exploiting the environment to make them as well. And so I think being able to tell that story is really important so people truly understand what goes in to creating a product,
Mhm.
especially a product that's, specifically made with accessibility in mind.
Yeah, definitely. Do you see any other product designers that are moving in a similar vein of accessibility?
There are other companies that do nicer accessibility products, I would say what's pretty unique about us is our ethos of really embracing empowerment and the idea of taking these products from somewhere where they're unwanted to something that's a beautiful design object.
Mhm.
And so I haven't really seen the same thing happening yet. I'm like, I always want to meet these people because I think the great thing about, disability advocacy space is there's room for lots of us, right?
Mhm.
Like there's just so much room for improvement in mobility products that, I think there's a real opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
Thanks.
Do you ship internationally?
Yes, we ship. So right now we ship standard Canada and US, and then we take orders beyond there, but that's like we standard ship into the US. So
Good to know.
yeah.
Great. Is there anything else that you want to share about your organization, about yourself?
I think we covered a lot. This was you had some really lovely questions for
Yeah.
me, so I appreciate that.
Great, absolutely. And could you just let the listeners know kind of if they want to connect with Capella more or order items, how can they do that?
Yeah, so they can find us on Instagram if they want to connect on social. It's designbycapella.com, or you can shop straight from our website, www.designbycapella.com.
Okay, wonderful. I do have one other question. What is the story behind your name?
Oh, yes, I love this one. So Capella is a star in the Chariot constellation. So it's just a little bit of a nod to an OG assistive device, essentially. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I like it.
Thanks.
Very cool. Well, I really appreciate your time today. This was super interesting, and I'm excited to share this episode.
Awesome.
Hello, dear listener. Thank you for tuning in for another episode. This podcast is produced by Eden Environments, an inclusive and sustainable interior design firm. Our human-centric design strategy creates spaces that are fat and neurodivergent friendly, trauma-informed, and sustainable. If that sounds like what you need, contact me through Eden's website to get started. For the latest updates, sign up for emails and follow along on your favorite social media platform. And until we meet again, I wish you gentle days.